What's up guys, my name's Brandon, and today Apple surprisingly released iOS 18.2 Beta 1 to registered developers, and this was only released for the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max and the iPhone 16 series, since it was mainly released for the new Apple Intelligence features, which we'll get to in a moment. Now, along with this release, we also got iPadOS 18.2 Beta 1 and macOS Sequoia 15.2 Beta 1. But of course, we're talking all about iOS 18.2 Beta 1 in this video. And you can see here, the size came in at 7.36 gigabytes on my iPhone 16 Pro Max. And if we go ahead and check out the build number for this new update, if we go to our settings, general, about, 18.2, we can see that the new build is 22C5109P. So we do have a P at the end of the build number, which does indicate we have quite a few betas to go as expected. And we'll talk about the final release date and everything like that near the end of this video. And you can see that the modem firmware version for the iPhone 16 series is 1.21.00. Okay, so now what's new here in iOS 18.2 Beta 1? And the first thing you'll notice is that we have a brand new app icon on our home screen for Image Playground. So one of the biggest features with Apple Intelligence that we've been waiting on for a while is finally here with iOS 18.2 Beta 1. Now, when you tap on that for the first time, you will see this splash screen right here that says Image Creation, and you have to request early access to shared feedback and help improve image creation features. And then it tells you about what is going to be included. So we have Image Playground, Genmoji, and Image Wand, which we'll talk about those here in a moment. After you tap on Request Early Access, you will get this screen right here, and then it will begin downloading all of the models in the background. And then once it finishes up downloading, you will see this splash screen right here where it says Image Playground, use your imagination, personalize an image, and try different combinations. So let's go ahead and check out what that looks like in action. So that was my first creation right there, but if you go ahead and tap on the plus, you will see that we have this kind of just open screen right here where it says describe an image or add a suggestion from the list. So you can describe an image from scratch, or you could just use some of these suggestions down at the bottom, which I think these are really handy to have. And it showed that picture of me by default. So I can just go ahead and add that, and you can see we'll add it to the circle, and we can combine that with other things as well. So it already shows like kind of what that would look like just being me. But if we want to make this, let's just say Halloween. So we'll add that into the mix, and let's add in a chef hat as a costume, and maybe one more thing. Maybe we'll add some sunglasses as well. And actually I want to change the environment. So let's go back and change the environment to maybe a desert. So we'll add all these things into one, and then this application will create an image for me, as you can see right there. So I don't like these sunglasses, so we're gonna go ahead and tap right here and take out those sunglasses. So there we go, it gives us one image and a second image right here as well. So you can see what that looks like. That's pretty awesome. And when you're satisfied with it, you can go ahead and tap on done, and it will show you the full size version of that image. You can tap right here to save it to your camera roll or share it. And if you ever want to edit an existing image, you could just tap on the edit right here, and it will remember everything that you put in there, and you can go ahead and add on to it right here. Now also, if you tap on the plus down here, you can choose the style. So if you don't want it to be an animation, but you'd rather it be an illustration, you can do that right there, and it will actually change this in real time to an illustration as well. So kind of like a comic book character is what that looks like. And you could also create an image based on a photo of, different pets, nature, or food as well, or you can take a photo and have that there. But this is based off the image of myself. And you could also describe an image right here as well. So we're gonna go ahead and describe an image. So I typed out a green and black Lamborghini on top of a building in New York City while raining. And if we go ahead and tap on submit, you can see it will submit that right there. So I don't want to have all my other stuff in there. So we're just going to eliminate that, and we're just going to have it be my description of an image. And you can see it will come up with that image right there. So again, this is a different version. This is the illustration, but if I want that to be an animation, I can tap right there, and it will show me what that looks like. That's pretty awesome. Now we also have Genmoji. So this is different from Image Playground. This is where you create your own emoji based off of what you type in. So you can find this in the emoji keyboard, and you'll see that we have this little emoji with a plus icon over here in the top right. So if we go ahead and tap on that, we have this interface right here that says start with a few words or a phrase that best describes your idea. And what's cool is if I start typing out me, for example, it will know who me is. You can see it highlights it blue, and it shows me as the person person right there. So that's cool. So you can just type in me with a cowboy hat in scuba gear. So let's see how this turns out. Something just really crazy, and you can see kind of how that looks. So again, it's very similar to Image Playground, but this is basically just describing and creating an emoji for you. So once you're done with that, once you like it, you can just tap on add right there, and it will add that as an emoji, and it will save it down here as well. And you'll also notice that describe an emoji shows up right here in the search field now, and you can start typing in what you want to have as the Genmoji as well. So me with cowboy hat, for example, if I start typing that in, you can see we can now have create new emoji, or we can tap on the emoji icon with the plus right there, and that will create the Genmoji. It will add it into that, and it will start creating it automatically. Now, this update also adds ChatGPT integration. So this is something I've been extremely excited about, and it works even better than I expected. So if you go into your settings and go to Apple Intelligence in Siri, and then scroll down, you'll see that we have a new section here called Extend Apple Intelligence in Siri, and it says ChatGPT. So if you go into that, I signed into my account right here just to keep track of my records and my requests, but you do not need a ChatGPT account for this feature to work. So this is awesome. You can enable it up top, and then you also have under Siri, confirm ChatGPT requests. So you can turn that off if you don't want to have to confirm it with Siri. So let me show you how this works. So we're going to go into Notes, for example, and in Notes, we're going to tap on the writing tools right here, and we're going to go down, and we now have a new Compose section. Now this will work anywhere where you have the writing tools pop up. So this will also work inside of Messages. So if you go into Compose right here, you can see it says Compose with ChatGPT. Describe what you'd like to write, and ChatGPT will create it for you. Okay, so let's say I wanted to send a birthday invite to some friends, but I don't know how to word it correctly and how to make it sound fun. So I can ask ChatGPT to do that for me. So I have a little prompt written out here, and I'm going to go ahead and tap on Compose, and you can see it will create a sentence here, or two sentences based on what I said, for a birthday party invite. And once it writes it out right there, you have other options down here as well. So you can refine it, you can rewrite it, and we also have suggestions from ChatGPT. So make it more humorous with a pun, add a theme to the invite, or include a funny dress code suggestion. So I like the humorous with a pun. Let's go ahead and add that in there right now, and we can just go ahead and select all text, or you can tap here and select certain text that you want to replace or refine. So we're going to go ahead and include a pun in this birthday invite, and let's see what it comes up with. Okay, that's good. It says, I'm throwing a birthday bash that's going to be so lit even the candles will be jealous. Okay, that's good. So see, this is what I'm saying. Like, some people said you're writing 3 or 4 sentences just to have 2 sentences of text written, but it's like I don't have the creativity sometimes to be able to come up with those things. So it's really nice to be able to throw in some prompts into ChatGPT and get a response like that, especially on device. Like if you have the application, the ChatGPT application, number 1, you need an account. Number 2, you need to always go into the ChatGPT app to be able to, communicate with ChatGPT to be able to get these results. But the fact that it's built into the Notes or Messages or anywhere else on iOS, it's really nice to have this just built in right here, and it's so much more user-friendly than the application as well. It's awesome. And what's cool is this also works with Siri. So if I go ahead and ask Siri a question, give me 10 recipes using carrots and asparagus. Check that out. So I can use ChatGPT because it asked, and now it's going to work and give me those results using ChatGPT. And you can see the animation working up here, and check this out. It shows me all of the recipes using those 2 ingredients right here straight from ChatGPT. And again, if you don't want to have to confirm that with Siri every time, you can go ahead and turn that off. So now I'll ask something similar. Give me 5 recipes using tomatoes and basil. And you can see it's already working and using ChatGPT to come up with those recipes. So there you go. And it shows it all in line right there. You could also just ask Siri to ask ChatGPT at the very beginning of your query to automatically just ask ChatGPT every single time instead of Siri. So even for things like what's the time, I can say, ask ChatGPT what's the time, and you can see it will use ChatGPT to tell me that time right there. So you can do that. You can kind of bypass Siri by adding that in the beginning. There's also a new control center toggle here. So if we go to add a control and you go up here, we're going to type in Siri, and you can see we have this new type to Siri icon right here. So that will now be added into your control center, and you can see that now when we tap on that, it will invoke the type to Siri, which before you just had to double tap down here to pull that up. Also in the Notes application, application, we have a really cool feature called Image Wand. So if you go into your pen tool right here, you'll see that we have a new tool in the toolbar, and that is the Image Wand. And when you tap on that, you will see the new animation right here. So it says start with a circle and replace a sketch. So you can circle any empty space to create a new image inspired by your note. And you could also circle a rough sketch with an image with the image wand to replace it with a new related image. So we're going to go back to this note right here. We're going to go down to the bottom and we're going to go into that tool and we're just going to create a circle right here. So we're just going to write a circle and let's see what it comes up with. So it picked up on some of the themes that I wrote out in this little note right here, and take a look at that. That's pretty awesome. So it shows the voyage, sea treasures, and a mysterious map. And you can see the images that it creates just based off the text that's already in this note. Like I didn't select it or anything. All I did was just draw a circle down at the bottom and it was able to create that for me and add it into my note. That is amazing. And you'll notice that right next to that, we have this little image as well to recreate it. So if you didn't like it and you wanted to recreate it, you can do that right there. And we also have describe an image right here as well, which you can use, ChatGPT and Apple Intelligence to create an image, that's maybe not exactly based on what you wrote in that note. And now we can try it with a sketch as well. So I just drew out a person and a house right there, and we're just going to circle that sketch and let's see if it can create a better version of that for me. So it selected it and it's asking me to select a few words or phrase. So I'll just say house with person outside. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And it has the sketch right there. So you can see it's referencing the sketch, and now it will create a better version of that. And you can see that it's missing a person. So I can go ahead and add on to that. Oh, so it didn't do that because it says images involving people are not supported for this specific feature. So I said just add a stick figure outside then, since that's not a real person. And I guess it doesn't want to do that either. So let's go ahead and undo, and we'll stick to what it had originally. So that's pretty cool. It did that just based off of my sketch and just made a better version of that. And it's also just nice to have the describe your change section inside of the writing tools as well. So this is also new here, and you can just describe your change if you don't want it to be friendly, professional, or concise. If you want it to be something different, like funny, for example, you can just describe that change right here, and then it will rewrite that sentence right here that I selected to be funny. And as you can see, it did make it a lot more funny and more, engaging than the previous sentence. So having that there is awesome. And I think that's going to make writing tools a lot better by having that section here. Now, also in iOS 18.2 beta 1, we have the brand new Mail application. So if we head into the Mail app, you can see that we have a complete redesign here. I shouldn't say a complete redesign, but there's a lot that has been changed in here. I mean, first off, you can see that we can kind of sort our mail by categories. So I have it at primary right now, but if I tap on this cart, it will show me emails that are only transactions. And then next to that, we have updates, and it will tell you basically what each one of these are as well. So for the transactions, it says receipts, orders, and deliveries. And then for the news, subscriptions, and social, that's what's under updates. And then over here, we have what's called promotions. So it shows special offers, deals, and more. So this is something I've been wanting on the iOS Mail application for many, many years. And it's the main reason I used applications like Spark in the past. So the fact that we now have, different categories is amazing. But if for some reason you're not a big fan of this, you can always tap on the three dots up here in the top right. And we have a new menu now where it says categories or list view. And you also have about categories, show priority, and group by sender. So if I change this over to the list view, you can see how that works right here. So it doesn't show the categories, it just shows all of our emails just like default. So this is an optional setting if you want it to show the categories or not. And if you tap on about categories right here, it will give you more information about those categories. And at the bottom, there's a reset manual categorization button. So it says if you manually categorize messages based on the sender, you can reset categorization at any time. And you'll also notice that some of these emails will have new glyph icons to the right that indicate what category those belong to. So this is my primary right now, but you can see that I have certain ones that are going to be considered transactions. So it will only show that glyph icon if you're not under that category. So it will show right here inside of primary. Now here's another feature I think a lot of people are going to be very excited about, and that is visual intelligence for the iPhone 16 series. So this has to do with the camera control button. So if you press and hold on camera control, it will launch visual intelligence. So you can see the new UI down here. So when you launch this for the first time, here's what it looks like. It says learn about objects and places around you and get even more information about what you see. Images from your camera are not stored on iPhone or shared with Apple. Okay, so let's try this out. So I have my SD card down here, and once we have that in the frame, I'm just going to tap on this little image over here to the right, and that's going to search with Google. So it's going to search with Google, and you can see it will show me exactly what I just scanned right away. Now you could also tap to the left right here. So this little description icon, if you tap on that, it will describe using ChatGPT what it sees, what the camera sees. So it says this is a Sony Tough SDXC memory card, and it will tell you basically like about it and also maybe the environment. So if it knew I was on a desk, it would say that as well. So for example, if I say, what is it sitting on? It will tell me. And yes, it says it's sitting on a flat, light colored surface, which could be a table or a desk. And if you tap on the main shutter button right here in the middle, it will just take a picture of whatever you want to ask about. And then you'll get the option to either ask, or if you tap on these three dots, that's where you can search Google for it as well. So if I go ahead and search, for example, it will show me that this is the iPhone 16. It even shows the color right there. And if I go out of that and go to ask, it will use ChatGPT to describe what the camera saw in that snapshot. Now let's see if it can tell me where I bought this tree from. So we're going to go ahead and search for this, and it found some that were pretty close. So this can be a great way as well to take a picture of something if you want to see where you can buy it from. If you don't know the name brand or anything like that, that is a good way to do it because these all look pretty similar. And Apple also demonstrated this feature working for taking pictures of menus and signs or just restaurants outside, and it will give you details about that place, like the hours, the menu and things like that. So I will be testing this out in the real world, but for now I just took a picture of something I found on Google, and let's see if it can find that. So yes, it found that exact one. And again, in the future, it will show more information about that store as well, or that restaurant as well. Now, also new in iOS 18.2 beta 1 is a pretty big change in the US, not just the EU, for changing default applications. So if you go into your settings and go to apps, you'll notice that up top, we have a new default apps section. And when you go into that, this is where you can change all of your default applications. So before it was only for mail and other applications, but now I know you had to go into like those settings for it, but now it's in its own dedicated section right here called default apps. It's like its own hub for it, as it says, and you can change all the default applications here. So for email, you can change that if you have something else installed. For messaging, I can change that from messages to something else, like maybe WhatsApp, for example. For calling, you can change that from phone to FaceTime, or if you have another third-party app, potentially. You have call filtering, the browser application. So if you wanted to change that to another browser, you can do that right there. Passwords and codes and keyboards. So some of these were already there previously, but now we have a brand new hub for changing the default apps in its own dedicated section. But the new ones right here are going to be for messaging and calling. Those were not available previously on iOS 18, at least not in the US. And if you try to download a third-party app marketplace, you can see that if I go to continue anyway and try to install this, we now have this right here. So this never popped up before if you would like to install an app marketplace. And when you go into that and you scan your Face ID, you can see that you will get some additional options here. Like if we go back into our settings here, you'll see it populate up top, and then it says allow apps from Epic Games, and you can see app installation, your data, and unavailable features. So it doesn't actually work. I was not able to actually install this, but it looks like it could potentially be coming in the future. I'm not sure, but it does show this, and Apple did also update their developer page to say something about this as well. So it says, that following feedback from the EU and from developers, in iOS 18.2, developers can test the EU-specific features such as alternative browser engines, contactless apps, marketplace installations from web browsers, and marketplace apps from anywhere in the world. So it looks like this is actually going to be coming with iOS 18.2, at least in these betas, but I was not able to install the Epic Games marketplace, the Epic Games application on my device. And on that subject, if you're in the EU, you can now delete the App Store, Safari, Messages, Camera, and Photos. Those previously were not able to be deleted, but now if you're in the EU, you can fully delete those and continue with your third-party alternative. And inside of our settings, you know how with battery, and if we go to charging, we have a charging limit. Well, now we have a volume limit starting with iOS 18.2 beta 1. So if you go down to your sounds and haptics section, there's a brand new menu option at the bottom called built-in speaker, and we have volume limit right there. And now you can set a maximum volume limit for your external speakers. So if you don't want your speakers to go past, let's just say 80%, for example, which is really bad for your iPhone, you can have that set so it no longer goes, to 90% or above. You could also do 90%, of course, but if you wanted to stay at that 80% mark, you can do that. So you have from 20% to 90% as your options to change that volume limit. Now, as far as the performance and the battery life goes, performance feels a little bit worse than it does on iOS 18.1 RC, which makes sense because this was most likely compiled before the RC version of iOS 18.1. So I would expect to take a step backwards in terms of performance and battery life here with 18.2 beta 1. So I am running a quick Geekbench test here, but keep in mind I am running low on battery, and also, the device is kind of warm at the moment. So I'm not expecting a great score, but I will update you guys on Saturday in Apple Weekly how the battery life and performance have been going. But I will say, just while we're here still, I do want to mention that I've already had 2 random restarts, like a full restart, not a respring, a full restart 2 separate times, mostly when playing with Genmoji and the image playground. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be the most stable, especially here because it is a beta 1 and a lot of new features have been added. So we scored a 3392 on the single core and an 8056 on the multi-core. So you can see, as expected, that was lower than 18.1 RC. So again, don't expect great performance or great battery life given all the new features, and of course the fact that it is a beta 1 with a P at the end of the build number. I'm not expecting anything stable for at least a couple more betas. But of course, if you're anything like me and you want to have the new Apple Intelligence features, that doesn't even matter. The performance and battery life can be worse, but these new features, in my opinion, make it worth it. Like, this is a much bigger upgrade than even 18.1 in my opinion. Anyways, let's talk about what to expect next from Apple. So next up is going to be the final release of iOS 18.1, which should be coming out on Monday, October 28th. Now, as far as when to expect the next beta for iOS 18.2, I would not expect that for a couple of weeks, most likely in November. Probably the week of November 4th is when we will see the second beta. But of course, who knows at this point? Apple has been very unpredictable when it comes to these Apple Intelligence only updates. Now, keep in mind, if you don't have an Apple Intelligence device, of course, you're still going to be getting iOS 18.2. It's just not going to be right away. You will see that beta potentially come out maybe around the second or third beta of 18.2, similar to what Apple did with iOS 18.1, where they released 18.1 beta 1 before the final release of iOS 18, which I think is a good strategy because we have more time to beta test these software updates, which include a lot of pretty vital new features and changes. But as far as the final release for iOS 18.2, I would not expect that until sometime in mid-December. So we could be seeing that on December 16th or maybe even December 9th if it's early, but my guess would be right around the December 16th mark. But of course, again, it's too early to say for sure. That is just my initial guess. And in the meantime, I would expect an iOS 18.1.1 at some point for everybody in November. So that should be just a small bug fix update and potentially patch up some security vulnerabilities. So that is iOS 18.2 beta 1, an absolutely massive update, even bigger than iOS 18.1 beta 1, which is quite impressive. So let me know what you think about these Apple Intelligence features. Which one is your favorite? Which one are you going to be using on a daily basis? Let me know your thoughts down there in those comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, as always, be sure to give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe because I will have a lot more Apple Intelligence and iOS 18.2 coverage coming very soon. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.